Podcasting from Heroes Media Group with real, relevant, and raw opinions. This is the College Sports Hour with your host, Clint McPherson, and co-host, Greg Dixon.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 14 of the College Sports Hour. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm your host, Clint, and I'm sitting here today without my partner in crime and co-host, Greg. I say again, without my partner in crime and co-host, Greg, because of a snowstorm that has swept across the Carolinas and left him with, let's say, sketchy internet signal at best. So I'll be flying solo on this episode today. But, guys, today I'll be talking about what happened during the annual Army-Navy football game. Go Army, beat Navy. Today, we'll also be talking about the Heisman Trophy and who ended up winning that. And then transition to, like we have in the last few episodes, to what went down this week in the college basketball AP Top 25. We're on week 5 in basketball. So with that said, guys, let's get right into it. Again, I'm flying solo. If you like it or not, I'm sorry, guys, but this is the best we can do. But I wanted to stay on schedule. I wanted to continue to record another episode. I didn't want us to have to delay. I wanted to make sure that we were able to get a recording out to you tonight, or at least the live episode out to you tonight. And that's what I'm currently doing, guys. But let's start off with the 119th Army-Navy football game played yesterday in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, PA. Heading into Saturday, guys, Army was a 7-point favorite, sitting at 9-2 on the season, guys. So they've been having an awesome year, while Navy, on the other hand, entered the game sitting at 3-9. So realistically, Navy's not having the best of years. They haven't even had a good past few years. Army, on the other hand, is trending in the right direction, while Navy is trending in the wrong direction. But when it comes down to it, guys, Army has been consistently good all season long, losing to only Duke in the season opener, into Oklahoma in Norman, guys, in overtime, 28-21. It gave Kyler Murray, will he win the Heisman or not? We'll find out later in this episode, which everybody already knows that. But, hey, guys, they gave Oklahoma everything they wanted and more in that game, took them to overtime, lost a close one, 28-21. But while Navy has been consistently bad, guys, so they've been the exact opposite of what Army's been all season. And they played more of a tag-your-it approach to the quarterback position, which will, again, if you follow Navy football, which, you know, unless you're Navy, maybe you don't. But, guys, it's one of those things that they're playing the tag-your-it approach, I call it, when you're doing the musical carousel, you know. Guy, you're up next, the next man in line, play. But they alternated throughout the year between senior quarterback Garrett Lewis, junior quarterback Malcolm Pear, and senior wide receiver turned quarterback Zach Abbey. So Zach Abbey has been playing quarterback for, you know, he's filled in. He brings a different aspect to that position because he's more of the runner. He's more of the read. He can do a lot of that because of his physical traits, and he can read defenses a little bit better. But, man, that made it hard for this Navy team to really find a true leader under center and run the offense throughout the year. But, guys, the Army-Navy game played this weekend mirrored the type of season each team was having, basically. And I get it. Army only wins 17-10 in this game. But, man, the score truly doesn't indicate how Army outplayed Navy for the majority of the game. And considering how Navy was outplayed for the majority of the game, for most of the game, it was nothing short of a miracle that they found themselves trailing only 10-7 with 7 minutes and 10 seconds left to play in the fourth quarter. However, just like it did for the majority of the game, the Army defense continued to stifle Navy, and they rose up to the occasion and stuffed the Navy defense or the Navy offense when they needed to. So that earns Army its third straight victory over Navy and another 10-win and an impressive season, guys. Army head coach Jeff Monken has without a doubt made a huge impact on this Army Black Knights program that has consistently suffered in the past to losses to the midshipmen. Now they are again a bowl-bound team that gets to take the Commander-in-Chief's trophy back to West Point for the third straight year, guys. And that is huge. So when you look at this game, nothing really jumps out at you at the first half other than Army's defense dominated the game. They go into halftime winning 7-0. And again, they missed a pooch. Basically, they missed a 35-yard field goal. Abercrombie, their field goal kicker, he missed a chip shot, basically in the grand scheme of things, which let Navy hang around for pretty much most of the game. They go into halftime again, winning 7-0. They do get another. John Abercrombie gets to redeem himself. He hits a 33-yard field goal with 4:33 left in the third quarter. He gives them the lead 10-0. After that, again, it was not much going on in this game on either side, other than Army continued to just stop Navy. But when they made the switch from Abbey to Garrett Lewis, the guy that started the year at QB for Navy, they kind of got some momentum and stuff going on their side. I mean, most of the yardage Navy put up was in the fourth quarter. I mean, they had a 4-play, 48-yard drive with Garrett Lewis bringing it home with a 1-yard touchdown run, making it 10-7 with 7:10 left in the game, and we had a ball game. So again, this is always, regardless of the stats, regardless of what year these teams are having, it's always close because they play the same style of play. It's just whether what defense steps up and what playmakers they have on the side of the ball makes the plays. And really, there's a telltale sign at the end we'll talk about, but Kelvin Hopkins Jr., man, he stepped up big at the QB position for Army and basically answered the scoring with 128, basically wrapping the game up 17-7. But Navy would go down the field in 10 plays, 47-yard drive in 59 seconds to go down 17-10, set them up for a chance to force overtime or win the game, whatever they chose. They kicked the onside kick. It wasn't successful, but again, guys, they did add a field goal towards the end of that game to make it 17-10, make it look a lot closer than it really was. But at the end of the day, Army was just too much in this game for Navy. And again, like I said, it was a telltale sign of the type of years they had. Again, like I said, Hopkins Jr. had a huge day. When you look at it, passing yards, they're never going to be having a huge day, really. He was 4 for 9, 61 yards. But what he did was show that leadership that Navy needs at the quarterback position. He rushed for 18 times. He had 64 yards and 2 huge touchdowns. So kudos to Army, and I'm glad they came out on top. They out yardaged Navy 283 to 201. But man, like I said, the telltale sign was the turnovers. Navy committed 4 turnovers this game to Army's 0, guys. So that right there really helped Army bring home this game. They were more consistent throughout the game, and again, they won the turnover battle, which was huge. So good job again, repping the Army. I was an Army veteran for 8 years, guys, and it's good to see Army, because when I was in, man, Navy was just running it. And so for the last 3 years, like I said, Army has taken this home. They get to take the Commander-in-Chief Trophy back to West Point, and it's a good year. It's a good game. Really, who comes out on top, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because the tradition's there. They've played, this is the 119th Army-Navy game, so it was huge, guys. And again, kudos to Army for winning that game. But let's talk a little bit about the Heisman, because that was really the only game played this weekend. And so we didn't have much to look forward to other than some FCS, some playoff games there, which were exciting too, and I enjoyed every bit of that. But when it came down to it, the real talk of the weekend outside of the Army-Navy game was the Heisman Trophy and the award shows. So really, I'm not going to get down and dive down into the awards and who brought home what. But at the end of the day, we got to talk about the Heisman Trophy and who pulled this out. So this year's Heisman Trophy finalists, and if anybody followed college football all year, you know who received the invitations to Times Square. But I'll go ahead for the people that might have not known or might have not, got to catch up or have been out of the loop for a little while. It featured Oklahoma's quarterback Kyler Murray, Alabama's quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and Ohio State's quarterback Dwayne Haskins. Guys, these guys had ridiculous years. Coming into this, though, when you look at it, everyone knew it was practically a 2-horse race. So typically that third wheel, the third guy that gets asked to come, or even when they do the fourth guy, it's one of those, all right, whatever. They all deserve to be there. But at the end of the day, typically that one guy stands out. Or you have 2 guys like we did this year that, it could have went either way. But we'll get into why I think really separated the individual who won at the end of the day. And so coming into this, though, like I said, we had practically a two-horse race. I mean, all three quarterbacks all had incredible years statistically. So when it comes down to it, it's like, really, what team are you playing on? And Tua Tagovailoa, he played on the most dominant team this year. Kyler Murray's team wasn't as dominant defensively. They were very dominant offensively. And he showed out week in and week out. There was a game, which we just talked about, a team, which was Army, that slowed that guy down pretty good. But he still had 3 touchdown passes in that game. So at the end of the day, even though he was like 11 for 15, or he struggled in the 4th week of the year, that triple option always presents a challenge to teams that don't see it on a regular basis. And Army's a good enough, fundamentally sound team that they can give you fits. And that's what they did with Oklahoma. Oklahoma, again, though, pulled it out, and they avenged their only defeat of the year against Texas. They lose to Texas in a close game. Texas took a hold of that first game. But, and we've been talking about, or I've been talking about, and putting Oklahoma's defense on blast for a majority of the year. But they've stepped up pretty big in the last couple of games. They still are giving up a lot of yards, but their defense is coming through for them when they need it to. And so at the end of the day, it's all about winning. So I'm impressed by what they're doing offensively. I don't think, again, that defensively they'll have it to win it. But, hey, I've been proven wrong before. And, guys, that's just my opinion. And, hey, if at the end of the day, if they win it, man, I'm going to be high-fiving people, even though that's not my team, because, offensively, they're just impressive and fun to watch. So, like I said, all three quarterbacks statistically had a huge year. But really what separated Kyler Murray from his counterparts, which Kyler Murray ends up winning it, but was his dual threat ability. When it comes down to it, when I look back on everything. But this kid is special, guys, and he showed out all year. I also think that Murray had a huge advantage over Tua. Because it really came down to those two when you look at it. Because his defense was so suspect that Kyler Murray had to play deep into the majority of the games, while Alabama pretty much dominated. There was a couple of games that were touch and go there for a little while, especially the Georgia game where he didn't do that great. But for the majority of the year, and Tua didn't see too many fourth quarters, guys. In 2018, Tua did have plenty of games where he was inconsistent completing passes, but would eventually make enough good throws to his playmakers that his touchdown passes per game mask his completion percentage. So taking into account he was hurt for a good part of the season as well with his knee, his ankle, whatever was going on. But that practically killed his Heisman hopes was his inconsistency in performance against Georgia, guys. And I got it. I get it. He was hurt. He was playing on a sprained ankle, or he rolled it got stepped on a few times. He was not healthy. But at the end of the day, man, it's what you do, whether you're healthy or not, you're still out there. And probably he was probably suffering from several other issues that led to his performance, but he was also knocked out of that game, guys. So which helped Jalen Hurts write a storybook ending in the SEC championship, which is just great. It was a great game against Georgia. Georgia pulled up a fight. They came out, punched Alabama in the mouth, and had them on the ropes the majority of the game. But, man, when Jalen Hurts came in, it was a different story. Georgia started making some ridiculous play calling as far as faking punts when they weren't supposed to fake punts, and critical times that you're just like, what are you doing? Make Alabama earn it. Because, hey, does Jalen Hurts drive all the way down the field if you kick it down to him? Or does Alabama return a punt if you kick it out to him? I don't know. But you really gave the ball to him at midfield. They had momentum, and it really hurt your chances. So at the end of the night, though, like I said, Murray comes away. He becomes the second straight Oklahoma quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy and the 7th player in Oklahoma history, which ties Notre Dame and Ohio State for the most Heisman by a school. So that's special for Oklahoma. And so when you're talking about it, guys, he's the second straight Oklahoma quarterback. Baker Mayfield and then Kyler Murray, these two guys are studs. Baker Mayfield showing that even if it's just 1 year, in the NFL, what he's doing in his first year, he's somebody that's going to be there. And it's going to be interesting because Kyler Murray is playing baseball. He's not. It might be his last time he suits up in some football. We'll see. But he does want to play both sports. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can balance it or see if he can. Because, again, he plays a position that is crucial and is critical. So when you have somebody like Primetime, or when he goes and plays baseball or football or whatever, when you're a quarterback, I don't know if you could really afford to commit that way. because you're the leader. You're going to be playing. So it's going to be hard. And maybe if you played a different position, maybe it would be fine if you missed some preseason games or something. But guy, he's a special athlete, and I give it to him. But so what I wanted to say, congrats, man. Congrats to Kyler Murray because, Tua, if you look at it, he had a great year all the way through. But it was just some of these games and some of these injuries that kind of held him back and kind of, took it right from him, took the cookie right from him right before he pounced. And Kyler Murray, that second half of the season that he had, even the first half was amazing. But the second half, after they ended up losing to Texas, he just killed it, and he continues to kill it. And it's going to be interesting when they end up playing because you got, the Orange Bowl, the Capital One Orange Bowl on December 29th where Oklahoma and Alabama are going to face off. And that's going to be, it's Kyler Murray's Oklahoma Sooners and Tua Tagovailoa's Alabama Crimson Tide. So it's going to be just a very interesting matchup to see the Heisman Trophy winner pitted against the Heisman, the guy that finished second, the first loser. But hey, both of these guys are extremely talented. Like I said, it could have went either way, but congrats to Kyler Murray and Boomer Nation for taking home the 2018 Heisman Trophy. And again, like I said, I can't wait for December 29th in the Capital One Orange Bowl, which is one of the semifinal games that's going to pit these two teams up against each other, and to see how the Oklahoma offense reacts to how dominant Alabama's defense has been, and to see how the Alabama offense reacts to how this team in Oklahoma Sooners, their defense is making some big plays, and that's all they have to do because it's going to be hard, I still think, for Alabama to stop Oklahoma from scoring because that's what they do. They score, but it's also going to be interesting to see if Oklahoma's defense can stop Alabama from scoring because that's what they've done all year with score other than, the first half of the Citadel game and then some of these other games like the Georgia games where they struggled to score at time, but Jalen Hurts was there when they needed him. He didn't jump ship and he delivered a big win in the time of need. But that's it, guys, for college football. And this is going to be, I'm trying to keep this episode a little quicker, a little more up-tempo so I can get through it. So bear with me, guys. Throw me some likes and some comments if you like what's going on. We're up to 420 likes if you see in the background. I got this lame college sports hour thing. I got my work office right now in the spare bedroom. So bear with me. I was at work not too long ago, a couple months ago, and then we had one of the hurricanes came through and basically the roof of my office collapsed and made me pack everything up and then come back home. And so since then I've been working from home and I think that's what I'll do going forward, but I haven't had time to really change the scenery around. It's all been last minute, so eventually, guys, I'm going to get like a green screen so I can play with the background and give you all a little more visual effects. But until then, guys, and again, I'm flying solo tonight. So like I said, bear with me and just hang in there, guys. But like I said, that's a wrap for college football. We'll get into some of the bowl games. What I want to do going forward is probably have a second episode during the week, maybe like heading into the bowl game. So like December 15th is when the bowl games officially kick off. And so we have 5 matchups. Again, they're not huge games, not any huge teams playing, but they're important to talk about because it is bowl season and it is college football, guys. And I love some college football. I love college basketball, and we're getting in the swing. We're in week 5 of the college basketball. And with that said, let's transition and let's switch topics and talk some college basketball. Like I said, college basketball is in week 5. Let's take a look at some upsets and some big wins that happened this week in the men's college basketball AP Top 25 games. So let's start off on Monday, December 3rd, because the last time you saw us and the last time we talked, we do our podcast on every Sunday. So there was a couple games going on last week that no really upset, so there's nothing really caveat onto that or add to. But let's start off on Monday, December 3rd, guys. We had a big matchup. We have Michigan State. They defeated number 18 Iowa 90-68. Nick Ward went off. He was huge. He went 10 for 10 from the field and scored a career high 26 points and grabbed 9 rebounds. He also went 6 of 11 from the free throw line, which is huge. You got to tighten up a little bit, guy. You missed 5 free throws, but man, the Spartans were down by as much as 6 points early and trailed for more than 6 minutes, but fought back and led at the half, 43-33. So they went in at halftime or intermission up 10. 43-33 is a pretty big lead in college basketball, but guys, that can go away quickly. But it was all but over as the second half began. And because Iowa, they missed 19 of 20 shots to start the second half. Guys, if you can't make a basket, you don't have a chance. But, Michigan's Xavier Tillman, he has 14 points, 8 rebounds. Kenny Goins scored 19 points, had 7 assists. He added 12 rebounds. Joshua Langford added 14 points. And Iowa's Tyler Cook, he was balling. He scored 15. Isaiah Moss had 13 for Iowa. Jordan Bohannon had 11. But man, what really sets the tone here is Iowa shot only 33% from the field, while the Spartans shot 52, guys. So the Spartans were lights out during this game, and they earned this win, like I said, 90-68, and that was a big win. That's a quality win. Iowa 6-2 when they were playing in this game, going into this game. So it's a big quality win. It's a ranked opponent. So Michigan State, even though they've suffered a few losses themselves, they'll probably remain in the top 10 with this win. So saying that, guys, let's transition to Tuesday, December 4th, where number 5 Michigan, they defeat Northwestern 62-60. Just like in college football this year, this game was close, guys. Northwestern comes in with 2 losses in this game. Michigan's undefeated, and Michigan finally faces some adversity this year, guys. But Ignas Brazingis, he scores 13 of his 23 points in the second half. Jordan Poole added 15. Xavier Simpson, he adds 10. John Teskey adds 8 points and 10 rebounds. Rebounds are huge, guys, especially in college. You got to get those rebounds. It helps change the tide of this game, offensively and defensively. But this game went back and forth in the final minutes. And Northwestern had one last chance, but Ryan Taylor's long desperation 3 missed as time expired. And Derek Pardon of Northwestern, he scores 20 points on 9 of 10 shooting. So Northwestern had their bright spot. And Derek Pardon, he was lights out, guys, 9 of 10. Vic Law adds 19 points in their loss. But, again, Michigan faces adversity, but they come away with a close win, 62-60 over Northwestern. Let's transition. We're going on to Wednesday, December 5th, where number 1 Gonzaga defeated Washington in another close game, 81-79, and Rua Hachimura, the silent samurai, guys, that I call him. He sinks a turnaround jumper at the free throw line with 0.6 seconds left to give the Bulldogs a win. Huge shot. He ended the game with 26 points. Zach Norvell Jr. finishes with 14. Corey Kispert, he adds 13 points. Brandon Clark had 10 points and 11 rebounds. And the Zags really struggled, though, in this game against Washington's zone defense. Washington's Jalen Newell, he scores 26 points. Matessa Thibault, he had 18 points. But the Zags led by 10 in this game, 40-30, guys. Washington shot 39% in the first half, while the Zags only shot 41%. So it was really close. But again, it was a 10-point difference at half. And so that really, when you're looking at it, that could have been the difference in the game. They sank all 10 of their free throws in that half, the Zags, in the first half. But Washington began the second half with a 12-2 run, guys. And that really closed the gap. And from there on, Washington outscored the Zags 49-41 in the second half. So even though they trailed 40-30, they outscore them by, 8. Again, they fell a little short. But what allowed Washington to really slow this, Gonzaga down was – and the game down in the second half and gave themselves a chance. They went to that zone and they were just given a fits, because when you slow a game down with a team that's usually good in transition, we know Duke's good in transition. We know Gonzaga's good in transition. There's a lot of teams that are good in transition. But when you slow the game down like Washington did in the second half, or when you play Virginia, they do in their games, it's really interesting to see a team that's scoring a lot of points, which the Zags coming into this game, they averaged 98 points per game. So it's interesting to see when teams slow them down, the difficulties they have, whether it's through a zone or whatever it is, but just making them get set and call plays. It's just different than transition. You can't push the rock. You just can't, free will it or nilly-willy or whatever you want to call it, and just do what you want to do. You got to really take some good approaches, and it really comes down to rebound at the same time. But Washington, kudos to Washington. They did a really good job slowing the number 1 team down in the nation. But the number 1 team in the nation at the time gets this win. We'll talk about them later in this episode because they ended up playing a game today. which, spoiler alert, Tennessee came ready. So when it comes down to it, man, Gonzaga is a good team. They do have a key injury that, they're getting by. And we'll talk about that in the Tennessee game because I think, playing some of these more talented teams, Gonzaga is just not going to be able to get by. They're going to actually have to come ready to play. They're playing some close games now. They're pulling some close games out, and they're losing some close games. And we'll talk about it again later in the episode when Tennessee plays them today. But let's transition to Minnesota, guys. Minnesota comes up with a huge quality win, a huge win for them. The Minnesota Golden Gophers beats number 24 Nebraska 85-78. Amir Coffey scored a career high 32 points, made 8 of 16 shots, and went 14, guys. 14 of 17 from the line. That's how you get it done. He shot 50% from the field. He kills it from the free throw line. Again, you want him to tighten up? I want you to make all of them. But again, that's just me, guys, and I know it's not realistic. But when you go 14 of 17 from the line, that's huge. He had 6 rebounds, had 6 assists. He also spent much of the night guarding James Palmer, which is Nebraska's leading scorer, that came into this game averaging 18.3 points per game. And he was limited, guys, to 11 points, going 3 of 14 from the floor. So he did not have a great game shooting the rock. He ended up scoring a few points. But, man, you want to see your leading scorer in Nebraska step up in this big moment. But, man, I don't think he was ready for, I don't think he was ready for what Minnesota brought to the table. But at the end of the day, Jordan Murphy, he adds 18 points, 13 rebounds. Minnesota rallied in this game to beat number 24 Nebraska. For Nebraska, Isaac Copeland led with 17 points and 7 rebounds. Isaiah Robbie, he added 15 points. And Glenn Watson adds 14 points in their loss. So, again, guys, kudos to Minnesota for defeating a ranked Nebraska team, which probably won't be ranked when the new rankings come out tomorrow. But, again, quality win. It's a ranked team, and you get to put that on your resume. So let's transition to December 6th. Purdue, another team we've talked about. They've lost a couple close games. They lost some tough games. They lost one to Florida State. We talked about that, I think, in the past episode or the episode before that. And they defeated number 23 Maryland, which is a good Maryland Terrapins team, 62-60. Another close game for this Purdue team. They seem that they're always in one of these games, even when they're getting beat. It's not a blowout. But Carson Edwards had 20 points despite an off-shooting night. He only shot 4 of 15 from the field, but he made all 9 of his free throws, guys. Free throws are huge and could be just difference makers in some of these close games. And some of these teams that don't hit these free throws, they have to be shooting themselves in the foot or kicking themselves in the head because, man, free throws and rebounds are huge. He also added 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Anthony Cohen Jr., he led Maryland with 18 points. Bruno Fernando had 10 points and 13 rebounds. You're a boss when you get over 10 rebounds, but you're pulling at 13 rebounds. Awesome. Terrapins blew multiple chances to take control of this game. Maryland took an 8-point lead in the first half, held a 4-point lead in the second half, and then quickly let Purdue take control. And after that, again, Maryland closed the gap. It did end up 62-60, but Purdue ends up earning a quality win. They improved to 6-3. They get a quality win over a ranked opponent, and good job, Purdue. On Friday, December 7th, we're transitioning over to Friday, guys. We had a good game. This game was something that we circled on, the show notes the last time. Arizona State at the time was not ranked. We knew they were going to be ranked coming into the rankings because they've been taking care of business, and some of these other teams on the top 25, the latter half of the top 25, have been losing. So we knew Arizona State was going to have a huge chance to jump in the top 25. They do that. They face the Nevada team, and number 6 Nevada team that a lot of people aren't really, coming into the season, people are like, watch out for Nevada, but everybody's looking at their schedule. They play no one, and Nevada played what might be its only ranked opponent all season, and they didn't start off great, but they come back in the second half and pull out a win, 72-66. This was a great game to watch, guys. Number 6 Nevada facing possibly the only ranked team of the year until they get into the tournament, whether it's their conference tournament or whether it's, March Madness, whatever it is, the dance, and they get into that, man. It's one of those, will they play a team until then? We'll see. But this Arizona State team was a good, starting point. Nevada ends up pulling it out. Caleb Martin scored 14 of his 17 points in the second half. Jordan Caroline added 16 points and 8 rebounds. Against Dort, he scored 24 points. Zaylen Chapman had 13 points and 10 rebounds. But the thing in this one was, Arizona State dominated the first half. They raced out to a 23-8 lead, and everybody was like, "Oh, we told you about Nevada. We told you." But guys, they hung in there. Nevada, a very senior-heavy team, fought back in the second half and made this a game. They could have easily folded. They could have easily packed it up and went home, but they came back. They came back strong. The Sun Devils, though, committed 17 turnovers. They controlled the boards 40-31 in their loss, but at the end of the day, man, they just couldn't do enough to stop the number 6 team in the nation in the Nevada. And again, Arizona State loses a close game, but it's a good quality win for Nevada, and it's not a bad loss for Arizona State. So kudos for the Sun Devils for giving Nevada everything they wanted and more. But at the end of the day, Nevada pulls it out, stays undefeated, and kudos to Nevada for doing that, guys. Let's transition to yesterday, Saturday, December 8th, guys, which saw some good games. And one of those good games was number 2 Kansas defeating New Mexico State, which nobody thought coming into that game. Mexico State had a loss on the year, not a bad team, but nobody thought we'd be talking about this game, or at least I didn't. I mean, Dedrick Lawson had 20 points, 10 rebounds. He scored Kansas' final 14 points. Get that, guys. Dedrick Lawson, he scores their Kansas's 14 final points. That's huge. He had 2 points at the half too. So it wasn't something that he came out balling in that second half. He wasn't, didn't have a great game in the beginning, but man, he came back with a fury in the second half. Udaka Azubuike set this game due to an injury. Marcus Garrett added 10 points. The only other Jayhawk to score in double figures. Charlie Moore had 3 steals in his first start. But for the Aggies, man, New Mexico State put up a fight. JoJo Zamora led the Aggies with 15 points. Ivan Arachichi had 14 points, and 6 assists. And Johnny McCants had 12 points in their loss. But man, New Mexico State, the Aggies gave the Kansas Jayhawks everything they wanted and more. They pulled out a close. Number 2 Kansas pulled out a close one, 63-60. But man, it was a good and interesting game to watch. And it was definitely something to stay tuned to, man. Any of those teams in the top 25 can get beat on any given night because the parity at some of these colleges is just ridiculous. You have this crazy talented squad like the Gonzaga teams, the Kansases, the Kentuckys, the Dukes right now. I mean, these teams are extremely talented. They got skill on the sideline. But, man, on any given night, it's just amazing to see what some of these other teams do. They present – it's all about matchups. Whether it's a zone, whether it's slowing the game down, whatever it is, the big man versus small lineups and stuff. It's just interesting to see how some of these coaches counteract or keep their teams in the games with some of these very skillful players because, guys, in the nation right now, I mean, you got guys all over the place, and it's been that way forever. You have guys that are awesome, but, man, seeing some of these lower-end schools, that we typically look down on in the past, come in ready to play these teams and pull off these upsets, and it's awesome, man, because it's almost like you're sitting March Madness already, and that's why college basketball is so awesome. But Kansas pulls out a close game. They beat New Mexico State 63-60, guys. Another team we've been talking about. Let's transition to Seton Hall defeating number 9 Kentucky. Man, this game went down to the wire. I mean, this was another amazing game to watch. Seton Hall has not had the best year to date. Huge quality win for them, though, beating number 9 Kentucky like they did. Keldon Johnson caught the ball near half court for Kentucky, and he launched a shot that sent Kentucky in a frenzy as they went overtime. So Kentucky was behind by 3. Half court shot, boom, he nails it. But unfortunately, that feeling wouldn't last that long because they lost the Seton Hall. Miles Kell, he hits the go-ahead three-pointer with 9.5 seconds remaining. He finishes the game with 17 points. Quincy McKnight had 15 points and 5 assists. Miles Powell, he scores 28 points after halftime for Seton Hall, which is huge. He comes up in a big way. P.J. Washington scored a career-high 29 points and grabbed 13 rebounds for Kentucky. So P.J. Washington had a huge game. Reed Travis added 13 points before fouling out with 2:20 remaining in the game. Keldon Johnson, he finished the game with 10 points in their loss. But, man, kudos to Seton Hall for getting a good quality win after 3 losses on the year. They send Kentucky down to 7-2. Kentucky will fall in the rankings a little bit, but, man, Kentucky is a good squad. Seton Hall is going to be a good squad and a team that you're probably going to have to look out for later in the year. And a good transition into another team you're going to have to look out for, Marquette. Marquette obviously has 2 losses on the year, but man, they go against the number 12 Wisconsin and they defeat them 74-69. Huge win for Marquette. Marcus Howard, he had 27 points. Sam Hauser adds 13 points and 14 rebounds. That's huge. They held Wisconsin to 21% shooting from the three-point line. Joey Hauser, he adds 15 points and hits big. He hit some huge late game shots. Their calling card this year has been tough defense, and that's what they did. Went 22 of 34 from the free throw line, while Ethan Happ, number 22, Big Dirty, he had 34 points, 16 of 21 shooting along with 11 rebounds for Wisconsin, in their loss. But man, Ethan Happ had a huge game. He was lights out, but he just wasn't enough to overcome what Marquette and Marcus Howard and his team brought to the table. And Marquette gets a good quality win, 74-69, guys. Another game. This was one of those, hey, slow it down, or hey, let's not score that many points. But Tulsa defeats number 16 Kansas State, guys, 47-46. Martins Banu, had himself play to remember, guys. He hits the go-ahead jump hook with 1:51 remaining. He finishes with 9 points. Not a huge game, but 6 big rebounds. Curran Scott adds 14 points. Kansas State had one last chance in the final seconds, but Barry Brown Jr., he rimmed out a floater on the drive into the lane. They fall a little short, but Xavier Sneed had 13 points and 10 rebounds for the Wildcats. They shot just 30.5% from the field and committed 16 turnovers, guys. Turnovers will kill you, especially when it comes to the tournament. You got to get right with the turnovers. I mean, you're going to see a lot of turnovers in the tournament. There's a lot of slow games. There's a lot of things going on. You got to grind. But man, the turnovers, if you could limit the turnovers, you really have a chance. But Kansas State had 16 of them. Kansas State star Dean Wade only had 2 points. So that's the highlight of this game. It's a big takeaway. Tulsa limits their Kansas State star to 2 points and leads them to a victory, 47-46. But Tulsa wasn't exactly lights out in this game either, guys. They shot only 38% from the field. They committed 15 turnovers themselves, but again, they pulled out a close victory. They were out-rebounded 42-34 in this game. But this was Tulsa's first win over a ranked opponent since 2016 when they beat number 16 Southern Methodist, guys. So this is a huge win for Tulsa, a good quality win for them. They're 7-3 on the year. Kansas State found themselves coming into this game number 16. They slip a little bit, but Tulsa's a decent team. Kansas State will fall in the rankings, if not out of the top 25. But hey, you'll see Kansas State floating around top 25 all season, I believe. But let's transition to today, guys, and we're getting ready to wrap the show up. But Sunday, December 9th, we had a huge matchup that we cannot not talk about. It is Sunday night here, and number 7 Tennessee. Everybody was talking about this matchup coming in. Number 7 Tennessee, will they have what it takes to beat number 1 Gonzaga? And they definitely had what it took to beat number 1 Gonzaga. They beat them 76-73 in another close game for the Zags. And man, Tennessee showed out, and they showed how talented this squad is. Admiral Schofield, he came up big for the Vols. He hits a three-pointer, guys, with 24 seconds left. Schofield scored 25 of his 30 points in the second half to help his team knock off the Zags in the Cole Angelo Classic today. And the reigning SEC Player of the Year, Grant Williams, he added 12 points before fouling out with 2:30 left to play in this game, which almost cost Tennessee. But Tennessee, in this game, they jumped out to an early lead in this game, but found themselves having to battle back in the second half from 9-point deficit. So Zags fought back. Zags took a lead. They went on a run, and Tennessee found themselves, they fell down behind 9 points. So they had to come back, and Tennessee did that and more. As both teams battled down the stretch, Gonzaga had 2 opportunities, guys, to tie the game with 2 key players. And they took those chances by tying with 3-pointers. Again, they were down by 3 in each occasion. But Zach Norvell Jr. and Rue Hachimura, the Silent Samurai, just couldn't connect. In the losing effort, both Hachimura and Brandon Clark added 21 points apiece. So they came up huge for their teams, respectively. But they just couldn't, knock down that huge shot when it was needed in this game. While Gonzaga, they've basically passed all their tests to date heading into this game, playing without their injured forward, Kevin Tilley hurt them against this very talented Tennessee Volunteers team. You know, when you have a good, talented team like Gonzaga, but then you have a good, talented, injured forward in Kevin Tilley, and you're just eking by some of these games when a lot of people expected you to run through some of these games, especially after what Gonzaga did to Duke, you know, and beating them. But, you know, Gonzaga is a very talented team. Yes, they fall to Tennessee, but man, Tennessee is athletic. Tennessee is talented. And I can definitely see Tennessee being in the Final Four or making a huge run come March, because this team is somebody that will be there in the end. They're talented, and they proved it tonight by winning and beating Gonzaga 76-73, guys. So that wraps up college basketball week, our week 5 discussion, guys. Obviously, tomorrow we'll have a new men's college basketball AP Top 25 come out. But as it stands, the biggest games to look forward to this week are both taking place on Saturday, December 15th, when number 21 Villanova squares off against number 2 Kansas. Again, definitely rankings will probably move around, so, you know, depends. When you have Gonzaga falling, you could look for Kansas to jump to number 1. Villanova is probably going to move up because some teams between in front of them have fallen off a little bit. You're looking at Gonzaga. They just lost against Tennessee. I don't see them falling too far, maybe 2 or 3 we can see with Tennessee pulling that big game off. But again, the rankings come out tomorrow, but they're going to square off Gonzaga, whether they're number 1 still or not, which I don't think they are. They're squaring off against number 14 North Carolina, which should possibly move up as well with what they've did over the week. But guys, thank you so much for listening to episode 14 of the College Sports Hour. Make sure to check out and subscribe to the College Sports Hour. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Radio Republic, TuneIn Radio, HeroesMediaGroup.com, and CollegeSportsHour.com. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook. Also visit our website at collegesportshour.com, where we continue the college sports conversation and post articles. I appreciate everybody that stuck till the end and heard me all the way through this, guys. I might sound like a babbling fool right now by myself. Again, I was flying solo because my co-host, my partner in crime, Greg, could not be here with me tonight because of a snowstorm that has swept across North Carolina. Almost affected us too. I mean, we've got a ton of snow here, but fortunately for me, it has not wiped out my internet connection or my ability to record by myself. So again, guys, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody bearing with me. This episode was a little quicker when you don't have the banner going back and forth. But man, let me know how I did. I know I have to improve. I know I got some feedback from somebody, Stuart Fleming, I believe, that let me know, hey man, you might want to change the background. Hey, watch out for saying man. I know, man. Again, I'm saying it. I can see myself doing it. I don't think I did it too much throughout this episode. I appreciate it though, guys. Thanks for bearing with me as we work out the kinks. This is episode 14. We will get better, especially when we have that little break as far as when we transition sports or when we transition fully to one. We'll continue, I promise, we'll continue to try to get better. We're going to try to continue to improve our show notes. But I want to give a special shout out to our family and friends, include all of our listeners, followers, and subscribers. Thanks for supporting. Continue to support what we do. Don't forget, guys, to join us next week for another episode of the College Sports Hour.